All right, take two. Yeah, I almost just want to start the whole thing over. Um, the big news of the day, of course, is that we started with finding out that Elton Jenkins is back. He's officially, back practicing. It does sound like there was obviously a injury issue with the back in some capacity. He did get activated off the non-football injury list. There's no new contract that we know of or anything like that. Just to get you the full sort of quote from Matt Schneidman. Elton Jenkins said, quote, he for sure thought about financial implications of moving from left guard to center at one point, but isn't anymore. Focused on being able to perform for the team. Jenkins said he missed OTAs because of a family matter, not because of his contract. So he did think about it, but he's back. He's practicing. It's huge for him that he is going to be, back in that center position. It's huge for the team. Like I always talk about, there's no good guy or bad guy in my estimation here when it comes to the Packers or Elton Jenkins. Packers are acting as a business. Elton Jenkins is acting as his own business, and everyone's got to kind of look out what's best for themselves. But from a fan standpoint, this is what you wanted the outcome to be, that he's back still by the end of July, did some individual work, did some walkthroughs. We saw these starting offensive line and walkthroughs of Rasheed Walker, and then Aaron Banks, who also just did individual work today, Elton Jenkins, Sean Ryan, and Zach Tom. That's likely your starting lineup. We'll see if Jordan Morgan can get involved in that at all. But great to see that starting offensive line out there in any capacity, and just Jenkins back out there with the team. That was kind of the big news of the day. As far as practice was concerned, obviously still insanely hot out there, 90 plus degrees, definitely had the heat, but the pads were back on and you could feel the physicality. You could feel the intensity. It was absolutely awesome to kind of just see the pads coming back on and seeing what ultimately is real football again. It's funny because we get to OTAs and mini camps and it feels like, all right, we've done some stuff that's good and it's fun to see football back. And then you see the pop of the pads come back and you're like, all right, it's just a totally different ball game altogether. And it was really fun to just kind of see that physicality at practice. Obviously, there were some situations that went maybe a little bit too far, and there were some injury issues as well. So we'll kind of jump into that right away from the big sort of takeaway standpoint. You had an injury situation with Marshawn Lloyd that involved Nate Hobbs. Now, to set context, Nate Hobbs on, Friday's practice, had a pass breakup on Dontavian Wicks. And it seemed like on the surface, a pretty good play overall, but Hobbs went through Dontavian Wicks. He didn't go around him to bat the ball down. He kind of went through Dontavian Wicks, batted the ball away. I think Wicks maybe still had a chance at it. Doesn't really matter either way. The point of the whole conversation is that LaFleur was not happy with it. He talked about it on Sunday. Can't go through the player, have to take care of your teammates, etc. And Hobbs was, kind of already talked to in that situation. Well, we get, I want to say, the second or third play of team with the pads back on, and it's a toss play outside to Marshawn Lloyd. And, to Hobbs' credit, he comes flying up on defense from his corner position, which is exactly what you want to see. But he goes low and he, basically throws the arm out there to make a tackle for all intents and purposes. Lloyd ends up on the ground and he ends up hurt on the play, did not return to practice. Hobbs got, the sideline treatment for probably a good couple series, and then did get back in, did have an interception, which we'll talk about as well. And then this, of course, the ideas on Twitter were just all over the place, right? So you had one side that I saw that said, cut Nate Hobbs, get him off the team. There's no place for that. Okay, let's calm down a little bit. The second side was, of course, just soft Matt LaFleur, not allowing players to go out and play in practice. This is just this sort of team's mentality. And this was one of the more physical practices in a great way that I can remember. There were pads that were absolutely popping. Like there was a play where I know a lot of us were there was a big play that just happened. We're all kind of getting the tweet out on our phone or whatever, making notes. And like there was a collision. You heard that collision. You probably heard it from a few streets down. There was some big time, really good physicality, intensity. The energy was amazing. This was not some, BC level football where it's just the two-hand touch. No, there was absolutely physical, intense football. And again, one of the more, I thought, whether you just want to call it intense or whatever, practices that I can remember. I loved everything that was going on. There was no lack of energy or physicality or anything like that all throughout practice. You can have very physical, intense practices without having the potential ability to go low on your opponent or do things that you're not supposed to potential injure players. And with Nate Hobbs, he broke the rules of engagement. And if you don't take care of that in some capacity, then things really get out of hand. Because here's what, if you're Matt LaFleur and you don't do anything, and Nate Hobbs just is able to do that, who do you think is going to take care of things? If it's not the coach, guess what's going to happen? The players will take care of it on the field. And that means that somebody's going to come out on a toss block for Nate Hobbs, and Nate Hobbs is going to go flying into the third row of the stands. That's not what you want either. So, you have to make sure that you are getting that under control when you have the opportunity to do so. Nate Hobbs, I believe, Jordan Love, I know, went over and talked to him. The offense was understandably upset that, he went low and it ended up injuring Marshawn Lloyd. Hobbs went to the side again for a few series. Things calmed down. He went back in the game, back in the practice, and everything remained civil and calm from there. But if you're Matt and you don't address that, then it's a massive issue. And again, you're just like, there's no decorum. There's no rules at that point. Because if you're going to set the standard, you better set the standard. And if you're not backing it up, then again, it's just kind of chaos and anarchy out there. So again, this was one of the more physical practices that I can remember. It was an awesome day of football. There were players that were competing at an extremely high level. As an example, there's a play between Sam Brown and Micah Robinson outside, wide receiver corner. There's a play. It's a run play, not even to their side. They're just on the side. Sam Brown goes out there to make a block. He gets right into Micah Robinson's chest. Micah Robinson gets back at him. They're going at it. It's physical. It's clean. It's good. Just really good football. They're battling on the outside for position on that block. It's beautiful. I love to see that stuff. That's totally clean and within the rules of what you're able to do in a given practice. Again, what you can't do is go low on a player, actually tackle them and bring them to the ground. That's not what they're trying to accomplish at this point in time. You can be physical, you can be intense, but you have to take care of your brother. You have to take care of your teammate. Nate Hobbs did not do that. This is his second infraction in 3 practices. And so you make sure that you set the standard there. And again, it's not like they kicked him out of practice. They didn't send him home for the rest of the day. They didn't, I don't think are probably going to fine him or anything like that. They made him sit out for a few series, talk to him, and then he got back in and everything handled itself from there. No issues, no harm, no foul. I mean, other than obviously the harm that, Marshawn Lloyd potentially has. It doesn't look for Lloyd like he wasn't like limping around like crazy, but he did pretty quickly get shut down for the rest of the day. Hopefully he's good to go in the very near future. Of course, it ends up being Marshawn Lloyd, who had just every injury issue under the sun from a season ago. So yeah, it's very disappointing that it ended up happening that way. But these are sort of the things that are going to happen. We talked about it on today's show ahead of time. Of, hey, when you get to this situation, when you get to the more physicality of pads and everything like that, there's going to be more injuries. And we saw multiple today. Marshawn Lloyd was one of them. Malik Heath along the sidelines made a unbelievable catch against Bo Melton. That's still a weird phrase to say of Malik Heath versus Bo Melton. But Malik Heath, Bo Melton, one-on-one. Melton had great coverage on the play. Malik Heath completely contorted his body to be able to get to the football, then made the extreme contested catch, got both feet in, landed hard, still hung onto the ball, but he definitely got hurt on the way down. I think the ball either got probably his chest or his ribs or something. Maybe it was just the wind knocked out of him. I don't know. Certainly not speculating on it, but he was not able to get up after for a while, and he got a little bit banged up on a play. Apparently, Brenton Cox went out with an injury at some point. I did not see that one. Apparently, Dontavian Wicks went out with an injury at some point. I did not see that one either. I do know that Wicks was not out there in any of the team activities that I saw in the last, I would say, 3-4 periods, the 2-minute drills, anything like that. So hopefully there's no major injuries and no major concerns, but you did have Malik Heath, Marshawn Lloyd, Brenton Cox, and Dontavian Wicks all exit. Just going back to Nate Hobbs for a second. I talked about this, numerous times now. It's just an Andyism at this point of the relative a-hole score, right? If you're a Milwaukee Bucks fan at all, the Bucks probably don't win a championship without a PJ Tucker on the team. They needed that guy. They needed that energy, that intensity. And it just feels like every team, especially on defense, needs somebody like that. Just somebody that's going to have that mentality, that physicality, and just one of those guys that when he's on your team, you absolutely love him. And if you're going against him, you're probably like, I really don't like that guy. Nate Hobbs has a little bit of that. Okay. And right now it's a little bit different because he's going against the Packers, right? It's Packers offense versus Packers defense. And you're, obviously cheering for both sides, but you see somebody on the offense have that situation like Lloyd, and you're like, I don't really like that. Man, I cannot tell you, like, they are, for all the people that have been out there that are like, you need some intimidators on defense, you need those a-holes, you need some physicality, you need that PJ Tucker, whatever it may be. They have one in Nate Hobbs. That is going to be a massive value add for this defense. The way that he plays the game, the intensity, the energy, it's contagious. He plays with it nonstop. And to that point, it's hard to take that out of him, right? It's hard to get that to turn off. The reason that he's gotten to this point, the reason he got a big new contract, Matt LaFleur said the reason that they wanted to go get him is because he's wired that way. That's what makes him tick. So it's very difficult to just, you get out there and you're having a competitive period and you're trying to compete and fly around at 1,000,000 miles per hour. In real time, it's difficult to turn that switch and just be like, I'm just going to go half. Like, it's almost like for him, it's probably like being half-assed. Like, it's not actually doing what he's supposed to be doing, but there's a line, you have to follow it. He's been across that line now on 2 different occasions. I'm sure he'll get it cleaned up. As Matt said the other day, it's not malicious. He's not trying to hurt his teammates or anything like that. I really, truly believe that as well. It's just, again, I love the intensity. I love the tenacity. It's all there, but you have to find a way in practice to just tone it down a little bit and making sure that you're taking great care of your teammates. But I'm telling you, you guys are going to love this guy when he's making those plays on opposing teams' players and not, Marshawn Lloyd in a practice. Meanwhile, Brandon McManus, just a certified G and a bona fide stud, just making everything, absolutely everything. Made all of his field goals again, remains perfect at practice. And then in the 2-minute drills, which we'll discuss in just a moment, had the opportunity to go down there and kick 2 field goals. He made both of them for the game winners. They were down by 2. It's like with the 20-yard line, so like a 37 and a 43-yarders for the win. Nothing crazy. The offense did a good job in getting them in good, field goal position. But 2 clutch field goals on the 2-minute drives to pick up the wins for the offense. And then again, all throughout the day remained perfect. He looks unbelievable out there to the point where, like, I'm now nervous because I never want to see him miss again. It's just like, it's really fun seeing him connect on every single kick. And it's just right down the middle, seemingly every single time. Matthew Golden had an interesting day. So the big play was he and Keyshawn Nixon were battling for a 50-50 ball that got thrown up to him. Golden skies, goes up, contested catch. Nixon had phenomenal coverage on the play, but clean hands from Golden, plucks it outside of his body while he's in midair, then sort of contorts his body to keep the ball away from Nixon, and somehow gets both feet down in bounds because it was right along the sidelines as well. A really A+ impressive play from Matthew Golden on that one. That was sick. Now, he also had a play where it was like a 50-50 between him and Hobbs. It was underthrown. It was not an easy play. That one fell just ultimately incomplete. He had a play with Micah Robinson where Micah Robinson had gorgeous coverage on Golden. Unfortunately, I think it was Clifford on that play, just threw it far to the right. I would have liked to have seen if that was a 50-50, if Golden could have come up with that one as well. But kudos on that play to Micah Robinson. And then you had a play where it was interesting. I told you guys the other day, I very rarely take my eyes off of everything to just watch one thing. But I wanted to watch Matthew Golden on a particular play, watch his release, watch what he was doing. Just so happened to be this play. So I'm watching Matthew Golden run this play. It's one of their core concepts where they've got a player sit underneath and then he comes and wraps behind it in the second layer of the field. And he's coming. I'm not even watching Jordan, right? I'm not watching the quarterback at all. I'm just watching him. And I'm like, he's probably open here. But if Jordan's going to get him the ball, he's going to have to throw it high to get over that first layer of defense. And also, I'm just not sure if I'm guessing, and this is pure guess on my part. I wonder if Golden was maybe supposed to run this just a tad bit deeper because it looked a little bit tight underneath. But again, that's just pure speculation on my part. I have no idea whatsoever. Could have been closer. But as I'm watching in real time, I'm thinking, all right, Jordan's gonna have to throw this high if he wants to get it there. But I think it's going to be there. Sure enough, Jordan throws. He throws it high to get over that first layer of defense. Matthew Golden goes up to get it. And this is, again, one of those interesting things of eye of the beholder. I saw most people tweet out that it was overshot and that it was intercepted. I personally, and I was, again, intently watching Matthew Golden, I thought it had to be high to get it to Golden, to get over that first layer of defense. And Golden went up to get it. Now, it went off the top of his fingertips, okay? Went off the top of Golden's fingertips. It was definitely a high throw. I think it needed to be high. I think Golden would probably tell you that he has a chance to come down with that one. Either way, doesn't really matter at the end of the day. It's just a practice. But ball goes off of Golden's fingertips, and then it floats up, and Nate Hobbs comes up with the interception on the play. It was like his third play back from getting kicked out of practice, something like that. And he comes back and immediately makes an interception, which was, of course, it's going to be Nate Hobbs. So that was an interesting play. Again, maybe it was too high. Maybe Golden should have come down with it. If you saw it, you probably have an opinion of it. If you didn't, you're probably just going off of whatever. Definitely would have been a difficult catch to come up with. I'm not saying that for Golden. I personally think that he maybe could have got there, but tough to say either way, and ultimately ends up in an interception for Nate Hobbs. Finally got some Jaden Reed, and it took till basically about the end of practice, and it was the 2-minute drill, and the offense is going down to try to, get into field goal range. And one of the first plays is a slant to Jaden Reed, and it's a little bit low and behind Reed, and Reed couldn't do anything with it. They come back. Maybe it was a couple plays later, but they hit a slant to Reed on one side. I think they hit a slant to Reed on a second side. They go back-to-back plays to Jaden Reed, then come back. Jaden Reed's up the slot, and he connects on about Jordan Love, connects with about a 20-yard play up the seam to Jaden Reed as well. So really impressive drive from Jaden. Had 4 targets, 1 not catchable, 3 caught, including that 20-yard seam play. And after having a very quiet start to the day and camp in general, he came up huge on that 2-minute drill. Jordan was able to get the Packers down to the offense down to the 25-yard line for a 43-yard field goal attempt, which, as I mentioned, Brandon McManus crushed in that situation. Malik Willis also did a good job getting his number 2s down the field. He got the team to the 20-yard line. The big play on that one was that Malik Heath contested catch situation against Bo Melton for, I think it was like a 26-yard gain on the play. So both the first and second team offenses drive the team down the field. The situation was no timeouts. I think like 1:45 remaining, starting on your own 30-yard line, 1st and 10, down by 2, needing a field goal to win. And again, Willis gets the team down to the 20, Love gets the team down to the 25, and McManus makes both of the field goals. Savion Williams got a lot more time, it felt like, at least, with the ones in this particular practice. Maybe part of that was due to the Dontavian Wicks situation with him being a little bit more banged up, but it definitely felt, even in walkthroughs early on, like Williams was with the ones pretty consistently throughout the course of the day. So I don't know if that's a small promotion for him or just giving him an opportunity on this particular day, or again, maybe filling in for Wicks a little bit. But either way, we saw a lot more of Savion Williams. He did come up with a big catch down the field as well. So he's starting to get a little bit more opportunity with the number 1s on offense also. A couple undrafted free agent rookies had some nice plays. We talked yesterday about Sam Brown Jr. and the plays that he made in their 2-minute drill with the 3s. Today on the number 2s, I think it was with the number 2s on the, I think it was the 2-minute drill, but don't quote me on it. Either way, the play probably only went for like 5 to 7 yards, something in that regard, but it's a high throw along the sidelines. He absolutely skies, and I mean skies to go get it, and still finds a way. It's right along the sidelines to tap his toes down, get it in bounds, rule the catch. And that was a pretty impressive catch from Sam Brown. I mentioned the block that he had with Micah Robinson a little bit earlier as well. And then the other UDFA, Nazir Stackhouse, a couple big time run defense plays again in the middle of the field. One play forced Emmanuel Wilson to try to bounce to the outside. Isaiah Simmons was all over that. So a couple nice days in a row for Nazir Stackhouse, who is, no pun intended, stacking success over these last 2 practices. As far as the trenches goes, again, these are our first days in pads. I thought Mike Spofford put it best. He said, per his eye, he thought that the O-line was better at pass protection and the D-line was better at run defense. I would wholeheartedly agree with that. Didn't see much pressure up front overall. Thought the pass protection looked really good on the offensive side of the ball. I thought the run game really struggled to generate much movement in the running game. And I thought the defense looked ahead in that regard, which of course we're all going to jump to conclusions. The defense still can't pass rush. The offense still can't get short yardage plays. Jump to the conclusions that you will. But day one, there'll be ebbs and flows within that, but kind of followed the script of what we've seen in the past, where Packers offensive line is very pass protection oriented. The defense was much better on run defense last year. That certainly felt like it carried over a little bit on the first day of padded practices. All right. Still can't believe I spent the first 5 minutes talking for absolutely nothing. It is what it is, though. We move on. Let's get to some super chats here. Ethan, thank you so much for becoming a new member. I really appreciate that a ton. Alex, I know you usually just come home to do these live streams, but are you going to check out the new locker room soon? At some point, I should get to, maybe after family night. After family night, there's a chance that I'll probably be able to get to check that out after the press conferences, maybe go over there and see it a little bit. So should be able to check it out then. You look so happy. That's a plus. Can't hear you, though. Yeah, I know. No audio from Jen. Andy, we can't hear you from KPT. We can't hear you from Celestial Prophet. My apologies, friends. My very sincere apologies. R.R. Smith, I want my team to have pit bulls on it, particularly my secondary, but there's a difference between playing hard and playing reckless and dirty. In your objective opinion, was Hobbs dirty? I don't think either play would have, to me, elevated to the level of dirty. I don't think he went hard at Marshawn Lloyd's ankle, knee, anything in that area. I think he came screaming up. I think in order to make a play, he had to stick a hand out. I think that hand made contact with an ankle or a shin or a knee or something like that. It took kind of his legs out. Lloyd went to the ground and got hurt on the play. Same thing with the Wicks play. I think he's probably trying to time it up, bat that ball away. He might have been a take early. By doing so, he ends up going through Dontavian Wicks. I would not put these on anything that I would say was legitimately trying to endanger an opponent. As Matt LaFleur said the other day, nothing malicious. I just think the way that he is wired is to go 110% at all times. And you're going to love that when the season starts. You really are. But you just have to find a way to tone that down. And in these situations, what I would usually say is I'd rather have the player that's wired that way and try to tone them down than the reverse of they just don't have that intensity and you're trying to get that out of them and you just can't get it there. But you can't have injuries on the field because a player is going outside of the rules of engagement and going low and getting guys to the ground. Just can't happen. I thought the punishment was appropriate. Take him out, talk to him, sit him out for a couple series, get him calmed down, get him back in. Don't think you needed anything more than that. I don't think it raised to the level of having to completely kick him out of practice, which they didn't. I don't think it should have just been nothing where they just send him right back out there and nobody says anything. I think Matt did a fantastic job of handling it. Get him out, set the tone, get him started over, get him calmed down, get him back in the game event or in the practice eventually. Everything was fine. There was no issues. There was no extracurriculars, the rest of practice or anything like that. Now, if we get to a third time where this happens again with Hobbs, now I think I think he's on strike 2, right? I think strike 3 might be a little bit more egregious where he could get kicked out of practice or the offensive guys might again start taking a little bit more umbrage with that situation. But for now, I don't think it's dirty. I don't think it raises to anything more than what we are, what needs to have, been made of it already, where he got, kicked out for a couple series, not even kicked out, just put to the side for a couple series, and we're good. I don't think anyone I would be willing to bet you outside of Marshawn Lloyd, who's probably feeling that injury a little bit right now. Like anyone's even remotely thinking about that play right now, so it's done. It's over. It's football. It happens. But again, if it happens again, that might be a little bit more of a strike 3 for Nate Hobbs. All right. Bill Brasky says, did Nate Hobbs hit the mute button too low? Yeah. I know. This might be a stupid question, but how does a team work on fixing drops by wide receivers? Are there specific drills or what? Yeah, a lot of work on the jugs machine, obviously. And then a lot of concentration drills. So they'll do stuff with tennis balls. They'll do stuff where, they're going really close to the jugs machine. So they're getting some really difficult catches. They're working on technique with their hands. They're doing stuff where the coach will say left. And so for instance, the coach is behind me, all right, throwing the ball, and he'll say left. And I got to and the ball will be by my head already. He'll say left, and I got to turn and quickly catch the ball without having any notice of where it is other than him saying left at the very last second. And then what he'll do is it'll be behind and he'll say left, but he'll tell you ahead of time that it's going to be the opposite. So it also makes you think. So he'll say left, but you got to go right. Or he'll say right and you got to go left. And as you do this over and over and you start doing it quick, it just messes with your mind. So there's a lot of concentration drills. They'll do stuff that like tries to obstruct your view. So like you can't really see the ball well, and then you've got to catch it at the last moment. They do a lot of different stuff to work on technique, hands, concentration, last minute catches, those sort of things. Those are all things that they work on and try to improve the hand-eye coordination, the mental side of it, and just, again, getting into good, practice habits to hopefully have some of those things carry over in the game as well. Not a stupid question at all. Probability of a top 5 defense this year. Let's see. 5 out of 32 is 15.6%. So a 15.6% chance that they have one of the top 5 defenses. No, I don't know. Is probably the honest answer. I think probably not great, just because I think they have a really tough schedule, and I think they play some really great offenses. And putting together a top 5 defense with that particular schedule looks like it's going to be very difficult. I really like their chances of being a top 10 defense. And I really do think in some key situations and down in the, once you get to hopefully playoff football, that this defense is very capable of shutting down some good offenses if they're playing their best brand of football. Thank you guys again all for the super chats. Really appreciate it. Sorry again that most of them had to be to tell me that I'm an idiot that I didn't have the sound on. Glad to hear Jordan talk to Hobbs, though. His leadership seems to be showing through early on this year. There's a positive from a stinky situation. Love was awesome. He has been a leader. Matt LaFleur talked about that, of taking on more of a leadership mantle. And man, Josh Jacobs, just unbelievable. First guy that's going to put his arm around people and, just kind of lift everyone up. He was right there with Marshawn Lloyd again today. He's really an impressive individual, and I cannot say enough about what I've seen from him, not only on the field, but maybe even more so off the field. Again, was right there for Marshawn Lloyd after the entire situation happened today. These will be fun to look through later. No audio. Someone call him. What did it take? 5 minutes? But it lasts at least 2 more minutes. I think you were right on, Chelios. I think it was around 1:35. Anyone read lips? Oh, yeah. I'm gonna have to delete this one on the live and then re-upload it on video, if you will. But appreciate those of you who tried to reach out and just remind me that I'm an idiot. Andy, thanks for the hard work. You're the man. Appreciate you a ton, Bill. Thank you so much for that. Let's see if I can get to some member chats that we had come in towards the end here. There's a lot of stuff. I'm not going to be able to get to all of it today. Holy cow, you guys had a lot of good stuff in there. 4 minutes. All right. Could have been worse. Lloyd got tackled low by Hobbs very early in practice and did not return to practice after that. Amar Johnson is a stud. I think we're probably, it's a little bit aggressive, but I have liked what I've seen over these past 2 days of him returning to practice. He's got some juice on the outside. He's got great size. He's a very interesting player. The Christian Wilkins stuff is really interesting at the moment. I don't know what to make of all of that. I'll just put it that way. I don't know what to make. I don't know what's real, what's not real. I don't know what if it matters and doesn't matter. My guess is, just in general, not even all that stuff aside, my guess is he's probably not going to be a Packer. No amount of toughness can prep you for a low hit. Those can take out Ray Lewis. Not saying it was intentional, but there's a lot of UPS drivers and accountants in here talking about what's tough. Yeah, I don't think that there's a toughness factor here that would even remotely need to be talked about, quite frankly. You said yesterday you think Parsons will get 50. I personally think it's 42 to 45. How much does Aiden Hutchinson get? Probably in that same range as well, assuming he's healthy and looks good this year. Yeah, probably 46, 45, 48, somewhere in that range. Maybe I'm a little bit high on Parsons, but they're going to get some big time contracts. That's for sure. I don't know if you've mentioned it, but I read Hobbs went low and Lloyd and shook him up. Love Hobbs' intensity. Yeah, we talked about that obviously a ton. Definitely was low. Do we have Baron Sorrell's dad in here? He's been great. Barry Sorrell, 88 was great at Texas. Now 99 will shine at Green Bay. Love that. He's had a really nice start to camp from what I've seen so far. Didn't see much today. That's not good or bad or anything. I just didn't get to see much of him today, but I did like what I've seen out of him at camp so far. All right, let's see. I think we just had a new super chat come in. Zillerson saw an El Gersma tweet. No, he's not at the top of the priority watch list at practice, but any thoughts on him so far? The first few days, you could tell He's going through some of the stuff of a quarterback that's coming on from Canadian football, which is a totally different beast altogether, to playing in the NFL. I thought he had his best throw of camp today was rolling to the left. So, not his strong side, throwing across his body, probably good 15, 20 yards down the field, hitting, I forget which, I think it was Cornelius Johnson, hitting him in stride. Overall, thought it was really, really impressive a throw from him. So hopefully it, kind of starts slowing down for him a little bit, but definitely some rookie moments from El Gersma, but that was definitely his best play of training camp so far today. Still think there's something there, but it's just going to take a little bit of time. All right. Just trying to see if we got any more member chats here. I don't even like the term injury prone or anything like that. It's a physical, violent game. Injuries are going to happen. I just think sometimes it's just unlucky, wrong place, wrong time. If it's any other running back on that play, we're not talking about Marshawn Lloyd. If it's not Nate Hobbs in that position on that play, we're not talking about a Marshawn Lloyd injury. Just unfortunate situation, wrong player, wrong place, wrong time, wrong moment. And it doesn't even he might be back at practice tomorrow. We don't even know yet. So I know that last year, a lot of last year was appendicitis. Wasn't even an injury. I know he had stuff earlier than that, but he was ready to come back and he suffered appendicitis. Like, that has nothing even to do with football. So I hate the injury prone stuff. Injuries happen. To me, it's just unlucky. Hopefully it bounces back and he's able to get out there sooner rather than later. All right. Max, thanks for the super chat. Lifelong Packers fan living in Dallas. I have tickets to the Packers Cowboys this season, but I feel nervous this year. Will we win that one? Max, I wish I knew the answer to that. I think they have a great chance. They've made Dallas a little bit of their home away from home. They've had a ton of success there. I think Dallas is going to be good this year. I think Green Bay has the better team. I think that should be a really fun matchup. I think that's one of the more fun matchups on the calendar this year. So I know you want to go and win, but what you should get is a very good football game between two good teams with a opportunity for Green Bay to go in there and get a big road win. So I can't tell you if they're going to win. I can tell you I think that's going to be a very fun game, and I'm jealous of your Packers Cowboys tickets. To the positive, looks like Reed heard you the other day and entered the chat. Yeah, I'm sure he probably did not hear me, nor would care even if he did. But it was great to see him in big plays, specifically in the 2-minute drill, and just get a little bit more involved. Again, what I said the other day too is I have no concern about 3 quiet days from Jayden Reed. It means absolutely nothing. You're going to have that from these receivers. Again, it's going to happen all throughout the season. It's why I say I don't give any fantasy football advice, but my one thing I'll tell you is stay away from Packers wide receivers. Like, you're just going to go for stretches where, you could have any of these guys go, 8 catches for 175 and 3 touchdowns in a game. And then you might not even hear their name called for 3 weeks, or like 2 catches in the next 3 weeks combined. Like, that's just how it could go within this offense and with how many wide receivers they have. So don't make anything of it, but it was great to see Reed make some plays in today's practice. Beast Bumblebee gifted a Pack-A-Day podcast membership. And how will the new president do? Who is he? I talked about this when Ed Policy's the new president and CEO. And when he first was announced as the new president, he was the expected heir to Mark Murphy. I spent almost no time talking about it whatsoever because we have no idea. I have no idea how I'm supposed to say anything of what Ed Policy will or will not bring to the table. I joked we don't get to see Ed Policy's TPS reports. There's no all 22 of the boardroom. I can't make anything out of it, right? Like, I wish I could tell you, yeah, unbelievable hire by the Green Bay Packers. Like, getting Ed Policy in is going to change this organization. He's ready to take over. Sure, could be. Here's what I will say and what I said at that time. Mark Murphy's final move, really, of his legacy, and it's not just Murphy's decision, of course, it's the entire organization's decision and figuring out who the successor is going to be. But I'm sure Mark Murphy had a lot of say in this. And really, his lasting final move, this organization, is helping to find his successor. And I don't think he put all this time, effort, and energy in to have somebody take over that's going to run this thing into the ground, right? Policy has certainly the resume for the position. He has been up and coming in that type of role to take over from Mark Murphy. He was the expected, again, sort of heir to Murphy. And then they went out and got a whole different hiring firm to basically vet everything out and get their opinion. And apparently their opinion was also ed policy. So it would seem that this was a smart, wise decision for somebody who has been in the game for a while, been with the Packers for a while, and is ready to take that next step as president and CEO. What his lasting effects will be on this organization and how policy takes it from here, that's just one of those that it remains to be seen. But by all accounts, good hire by Green Bay. I have no idea how to make anything out of it other than that. And your guess is probably as good as mine at this point. All right. No RAS score on ed policy. No, there is not. It's not. It would not be good. It's got to be 0.0 would be my guess. But outside of that, yes, Carmen policy son. So he's got, if you want to say bloodlines or whatever as well. Obviously, formerly Carmen policy with the 49ers. So yeah, definitely was kind of set up for this type of role, and now it's just in his hands to make the best of it. Christian says, what's up, Andy? Just joined last week. Love your work. Also love hearing your questions in the coach meetings. Do you get access to the locker room to ask players questions? Just talked about this yesterday. I do. I don't utilize it very much because I try to get here as quickly as possible to get online and answer questions from you guys and kind of go over everything that happened at camp. In season, it's really not worth going down all the way because practice is meaningless and you have to sit around for like an hour. Then you get questions from Matt, but the beat guys do a great job of asking those questions, and just ROI for spending like 4 hours of my day driving to practice, going to like 10 minutes of practice, then waiting around, then doing Matt, and then doing the locker room, and then driving back home. It ends up not being worth it, quite frankly. But sometimes after games, I'm able to get in there. It's also not something that I usually need a ton of, but when I do get the opportunity, I do enjoy it. And yes, I do have access if and when I want to use it. Know that injuries are usually just really bad luck most times, but you have to admit that there are certain players that happen to more than others. Yes, but we don't have anything scientific to say that there's a reason why, that it's not just, again, bad luck, that it's something physical, that it's something mental. I'm sure that there are players that when there are some players in the league that when they are hurt, they're not injured, but maybe are acting injured and maybe taking too long to recover. I'm sure there's some of that exists. I think the vast majority of players are putting themselves in the best possible condition and the best possible situations and scenarios to go out there and practice and play. I don't know that a lot of people still recognize all the stuff that goes in to being able to be out there for practice and games. Like practice games are obviously the creme de la creme. That's what you really want to be out there for. A lot of the practice stuff is still, I think pretty fun for the players. It's all the other stuff. I mean, you're watching tape, you're going through meetings, there's walkthroughs, endless walkthroughs. There's so much stuff that is going on to get you ready. The fun stuff is going out there and practicing, and is certainly going out there and playing the games. Like those guys want to be out there, especially for games, and most of them for practices as well. Most of them, in order to earn their spot, whether it's on the team or just getting more reps, need to be out there practicing to show that they deserve that spot. Marshawn Lloyd, Christian Watson, these guys that are quote unquote, injury prone or whatever, man, they are doing everything in their power to go out there and be healthy and be available. There's nobody that's, arguably on that team that has been in better shape physically than Christian Watson. And Marshawn Lloyd, again, doing everything in his power to be out there, getting back from injury. So even if that's true, even if Marshawn Lloyd is quote unquote injury prone, to me, that's not a tangible, measurable, quantifiable, anything. You can't go. It doesn't necessarily mean that because it's happened so far, he might, starting tomorrow, not be banged up for the entirety of the rest of the year. We just don't know. And it's really difficult to kind of gauge that going in. That's why you do all of the medical testing ahead of time. That's why you do all the character testing ahead of time, is to sort of try to gauge some of that stuff. But I just think it's weak to, either call out players or be frustrated with players for not being out there. Like I get, if you think you want them out there, imagine what they're feeling. And trust me when I say these guys care. They do everything in their power to be out there, and they want to be out there practicing and playing. So again, are there maybe some rare exceptions that I don't think there's any on the Packers, first of all, but are there exceptions in the league? Probably. But I think they are very, very rare exceptions overall. And these players are grinding their ass off to get out there and be out there with their team. How are we feeling about the Zach Tom extension now that Rashawn Slater contract is out there too? Yeah, I talked about this a little bit yesterday, but that Zach Tom contract is just going to keep looking better and better and better and better. Did it look like the coaches were upset with the Love interception? I know you said you thought he had to put the ball high, but I saw Schneidman say he thought it was a bad throw. Yeah, again, this is what we talked about of just being in the eye of the beholder a little bit. I think most people on the beat and that were tweeting it out thought it was more of a high throw than a drop. I personally thought Golden had an opportunity to come down with that. Wouldn't have been easy. Would have been a great catch. But I thought Love kind of put it where it needed to be, maybe slightly higher than it could have been. But I didn't see any of the coaches talk to Jordan or anything like that. No. You kind of proved my point there, Andy. Sorry, that's kind of what I'm talking about. To be clear, I'm not calling people weak or that they don't want to be out there. I'm just pointing out trends. Yeah, again, sure. But just because it's been a trend so far doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a trend moving forward either. And again, when Watson's contract is up next year, or, in 2026, the Packers will take that into consideration, and so will the rest of the league. Tevin Jenkins, all right? Let's take Tevin. We don't even have to talk about a Packer here. Tevin Jenkins, former second-round pick of either late first or I think middle second, if I remember correctly, the Chicago Bears. Man, good player when he's out in the field. Never, ever able to stay healthy, right? He had, in his career with Chicago, he played 160 snaps, 576, 731, and 738. Never got to anywhere near 1,000 snaps as a player. Played 2,205 snaps, basically probably about half the snaps that he could have over a 4-year period of time. In result of that, Tevin Jenkins, a more than capable starting offensive guard, by the way, at times was Chicago's best offensive lineman when he was out there. More than capable. Because of that, his contract this year was a 1-year, $3 million deal. I mean, compare that to 4 years, 77 for Aaron Banks. Aaron Banks got paid because, and even Banks had a little bit of an injury last year, but for the most part, he's been healthy. If he had, Tevin Jenkins' injury history, would not have got that contract. And by the way, guess who's hurt at Bengals practice right now? Tevin Jenkins. So, you can't always quantify that from a rookie sort of scale of who's going to come and still get hurt. It certainly ended up, being that way for Tevin Jenkins. And then his next contract was affected by it. So yes, your best ability is availability. I just hate dragging players or the context of, I can't stand Watson because he can't stay healthy. It very much sucks that he can't stay healthy. I don't think there's anything that Christian Watson's doing wrong to have that happen. That's more of my take on it. I haven't heard anything about the injury being serious. Let's wait until we get all the details before we jump to conclusions. Yeah, again, it didn't seem like anything serious for Marshawn Lloyd. So again, this probably is going to be something that hopefully he's back sooner rather than later. Knock on wood. I don't think this has anything to do with pain whatsoever. 0.0% to do with pain. None of Christian, it's not like when Christian tore his ACL and MCL, he's like, you know what? If I could just handle it, just give me a Tylenol and I'll get right back out there. Nothing to do with pain whatsoever. Lloyd had about 5 different issues in one season and has already been injured 2 times this offseason. I hope I'm wrong because I'm very excited to see Lloyd play ball, but he can't stay healthy. I disagree wholeheartedly with your assessment, Cody. He has not been able to stay healthy. Does not mean that he cannot stay healthy. Over basically 1 year, almost exactly, period of time, he has not been able to stay on the field. I do not believe that has anything to do with his ability to stay on the field moving forward. That's what I would argue. Lloyd looks great. It has nothing to do, in my opinion, with the weight room. He looks fantastic. He looks in unbelievable shape. He looks incredibly fit, fast, physical. And these guys are in insane shape, guys. I don't think it has anything to do with that. All right. I think that's going to do it for me today. Appreciate all 780 of you for being in here. My apologies for those who listen live that the first 5 minutes were dead audio. I'll go back to the tape, make the corrections where needed, and get that cleaned up. It's been a while since I've done that, thankfully. Hopefully, didn't hopefully it won't happen again, period, end of story. I will see you guys soon. Back tomorrow with a full breakdown of today's practice. There's a lot that happened that we did not get to discuss on today's show. So I'll be back tomorrow for that. And then, of course, tomorrow, immediately following practice with audio ready to go right from the onset. I promise you. I'll see you guys soon. But until next time, and as always, go Pack Go.